you are. I learn. I have a really poor short-term memory. Can you remind me what the assignment was? Yeah.
It was we had to give an example of the difference between procedural law and something else.
Oh shoot! I missed. Was from week 2?
Yeah, that's due before our group meeting.
Oh, well, crap. Difference between procedural and
substantive.
Yeah.
And statutory. Is that what it is?
Just substantive law and procedural law.
Crap. Didn't do that. All right. Well, here I am. I missed that on the schedule. Oh well.
I think it's actually due tonight at midnight.
Oh, is it? Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Good. Thanks for telling me that, because I kind of worried there. All right. So who looks like we got? Is Monica back yet? She's still on mute.
I'm here. I'm listening, but I'm just doing something real fast.
Oh, okay. Well, it looks like we've got a majority. Anyway, so you're Jake Latimer, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Nice to. You always go by Jake, or
yeah, just Jake.
Family call you Jacob, or are you actually named Jake?
No, my name's actually Matthew, but my middle name is Jacob, and they've always called me Jake, so kind of just stuck.
Oh, hey, that's James in the Peter, James, and John. His name wasn't actually James; it was Jacob.
Yeah.
The Greek kind of screwed that up for everybody.
Yeah.
So, it's actually Yaakov, to supplant or to reach for the heel. One of the two interpretations. Either one is correct. Sorry, a lot of useless knowledge. I should be on Jeopardy.
So, Jake, what was your example that you did?
So, well, to my understanding, procedural law has to do with due process of law. The discovery phase, when you're gathering evidence or preparing statements and things like that, or the time that you're given to receive a subpoena or to be marshaled or whatever it is. And then substantive law has to do with actual, legislative reprimands. Like substantive law would be like, you have to go to jail for this amount of time if you're convicted or something like that. That was my understanding.
Isn't that substantive law? Isn't that how procedural law is supposed to be carried out? Like, isn't that dealing with actual action on?
Yeah. So substantive law, it kind of has to do with. It seems like it's basically any law that affects us, outside of it could be contracts, crimes, property, anything that we.
All right. So the speed.
It's about rights and civil law and criminal law.
Yeah.
So,
I think an example the textbook uses is common law.
Okay, for instance, speed limits.
Yeah.
Or gun laws or whatever, and then and then substantive.
Procedure law is how that law is enforced, I think.
Okay, and then substantive is how those are treated, when Lincoln suspended the right to the writ of habeas corpus during the Civil War.
Yeah, I guess so.
I guess so too. That's what I said. But I think that habeas corpus is should be common law because it is constitutional. So I don't know, Courtney. What do you?
I think that makes sense. I don't completely understand. I understand that procedural law is basically just the enforcement of substantive. I just have a hard time finding examples of ways that works together. So I guess that makes sense.
Well, so I think I think this is correct. I mean, like, you know, like none of us, I'm like all of us, I'm not a lawyer, but during the Civil War, President Lincoln used a presidential right, part of the executive branch, that is to suspend the writ of habeas. Kind of weird that it's actually written into the Constitution, but he has that right per constitutional law to do that during wartime. And so habeas corpus being a a uh, uh, that's procedural law. The substantive law there was President Lincoln using his office as the executive branch to to choose to, and it was legal, but to choose to suspend habeas corpus at the time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's actually, if you guys look on page 11 in your textbook, it explains it. So I don't know if everyone has.
Yeah, I'm on that page right now.
Yeah. And so in the little you should remember, it says substantive law defines legal rights and obligations in regard to a specific subject, whereas procedural law is concerned with the enforcement of substantive law in a court of law. And so substantive law is basically, an example we can maybe do is, you know, here the speed limit is 35 miles an hour. And then procedural law would be how that law is enforced. And so, you know, it could be, you know, the police pulling you over. It could be, you know, getting a ticket from a light or something.
Okay. That makes a lot more sense to me. Okay.
Yeah. And so, like, up above it says substantive law has to do with that's the framework of a single subject, like contracts, torts, crimes, and property. And so I think that's what I mean. Substantive law is the law itself, and then procedural law is how that law is.
Got it. Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
Law is basically what the legislative branch does, and procedural law is what the executive and judicial branches are in charge of.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
Procedural law, like it says, it has to do with how things are treated in the court of law.
Okay.
Okay, so I have that paper that we're supposed to fill out up right now. So are we all cool with using that as our example?
Sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
Should I share mine or?
Oh yeah, what did you do?
Go ahead.
Okay, I wrote here, as I understand it, the difference between both of them are the procedural laws dictate the process and procedures. To take in a specific law, for example, if someone commits murder, the procedural law tells you how to proceed and what specific papers need to be filled. And the substantive law defines the law. It deals with the substance of the case and how the charges have to be handled.
Is that right or is that backwards?
No, that's for the most part, right? Yeah.
That's my understanding, but I don't know if I'm right.
Yeah, I just think for the example part, though, we have to have like a hypothetical.
Something that happened. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just like a actual like real world use of it.
Okay.
So, speed limit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Simple, to the point. I like it.
So I'll type that out.
Did you know that at theme parks they specifically use like 14 mile per hour speed limits because you have a different number than a 5 or a 0? People tend to pay more attention to it.
Yeah, I've seen one of those before. I saw a 12-mile-an-hour one once.
Yeah, they do it so you'll pay more attention to the speed. All right, like I said, use this knowledge. Well, I mean, I guess it doesn't have to do with this. I was just filling in. Hey, Braley.
Yeah, sorry I was late. It took me a minute to like figure out what I was doing.
No, I get it. I saw your email. I was gonna respond to you.
Yeah, like right after I sent it, I was like, oh, I'm dumb. There it is.
Okay, so the speed limit.
Hi, Ben. I miss you too.
The speed limit is 35 miles per hour, and that would be the substantive law. And the procedural law would be the cops pulling you over.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're going like.
Sorry, say it again. I got a year-old coming in. One second. Come here.
Yeah, so it'd be like cops
Right.
maybe pulling you over, and then another way we could go with it is like how addressing paying of that ticket or that fine is happens in the courtroom, but either one is fine, whatever's simpler.
Okay, I can put both. That's not a problem.
Just write the first one down. Just let's make it simple. It's easy to do. The other ones are all valid. I just think speed limit is probably the easiest way to explain.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
So, I don't know. I don't think you have to write the other ones down. Anyone else?
No, I think it's good.
No, I'm only writing the one.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. So now we need to come up with a quiz question that will help like other students grasp like the concept.
Does it have to like relate to our example, or is it something entirely different?
Yeah, it has to relate to the substantial and procedural law.
No, I mean like does it have to relate to like the speed limit thing?
Oh no.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
Let's use the murder thing. Monica.
Okay, so
Monica, can you explain that again?
Okay, so the procedure with the murder was, let me see, this is process. First, if someone commits murder, the procedural law tells you how to proceed. So, but I don't know how to make questions. So, what specific papers need to be filled? But in order to make that a quick question.
I'm sorry.
We can ask like directly. What is the difference between substantial? Like the same question that we have. Can we do that? Like, what is the difference between substantive procedural
law is the law that dictates how procedural law is carried out.
I don't think we can use our example, like our assignment as the question.
Okay. So, in the case of murder, any of you guys live in Utah?
Nope.
No? Any of you guys been to Utah?
Yep.
Yep.
So, in the state of Utah, obviously murder is against the law. And specifically capital murder, which is defined as like the murder of a child, famous person. There's a few different things that define first degree or capital murder. That is the procedural law, right? The substantive law in Utah dictates that people charged and found guilty of capital murder may be it's the only state left in the union where you can be executed by firing squad. So that's a substantive law. Am I right? All right.
Yeah.
Something. Okay. So anyway, so there's data. So how do we form that around the question? Like maybe what do you think? Like in certain states, this defines capital murder. What would be the substantive, or what substantive law comes into play involving capital murder of someone who has been charged and indicted and found guilty?
But do they need to know? Because I think they need to know the law, like be familiar with it. I have a
Yeah.
Well,
I have a question. I have a question.
State. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, an example. It says, which is the law that defines the rights and responsibilities in civil law and crimes and punishments in criminal law? So the answer is substantive law.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that works.
Yeah, I think that would probably be fine, but we would just need to come up with 3 wrong answers.
Question again?
Which is the law? But the thing, okay, which is the law that defines the rights and responsibilities in civil law and crimes and punishment in criminal law?
Okay. Question: Did anyone else notice on the quizzes where he actually has the question if you just did the work or if you went above and beyond?
Yeah.
Anyone else notice that? If you click, you just did the work, that answer is counted as wrong.
Well, he went back and fixed that though, because not enough of us went above and beyond.
Okay. I wrote an email complaining to him about the question, but I mean, last week there wasn't much opportunity to do that, to go above and beyond. But I think this is a good opportunity to do that.
Yeah. So in the sample group assignment, the question is like, it's about the example, because it says Bill is the CEO of a computer company. It gives example, and then it said, was it a good idea for Bill to share the information with Nancy? Mm-hmm. Like, they restate the example.
So we have an example of the law, and now we need a question about the example.
Yeah. Could you read, please, the example, like the explanation for example, or example 2?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Could please?
The example we came up with was substantive law is, there are laws set regarding speed limits in certain areas, and so that's the substantive law. And the procedural law is how that law is enforced or carried out in a courtroom. So it can either be, getting pulled over by an officer and being given a ticket, or having your picture taken by a traffic light and having that brought to court against you. And so procedural law is how it happens. So I looked it up right now as well. And so there's some examples of things that help constitute procedural law. And it says, like, an example is like probable cause to make an arrest. Prosecutors have to file charges against an individual to, bring them to court. Defendants have to be arraigned on those charges. And so they're like, procedural law is basically the rules of how the law is to be carried out, whereas substantive law is the law in and of itself. So in our example, the substantive law is, the speed limit is 35 and you can't go above that speed limit. And the procedural law would be how that is enforced.
Okay, I've had those terms backwards then.
So I think maybe for the question we can make, we could say which of the following is an example of procedural law, or which of the following is an example of substantive law, and then we could just make up examples.
Yeah, I think that's a good question.
Okay.
Because with that, then we can make wrong answers and wrong question, and
I think that one's easy to make wrong answers for, which is why I think it might be.
Need to state a procedural law as for the example so that the question can be answered, or what?
How do you mean?
Like, all right, so the state of Texas has a no drop rule when it comes to domestic violence. I live in the state of Texas, and what that means is if someone calls 911 and says that their spouse assaulted them, if the spouse who's making the claim says that they're hurt, whether it's true or not, that gives the police probable cause to arrest the spouse that they claimed assaulted them. So that's probable cause, and that's what takes it down. And they will be charged, and they will be brought before a judge, and then it goes through the legal process there. So what I'm asking is, like, do we need to state an example like that where we have to give specifics about a law before we ask a question about it?
I don't think so, because it's supposed to be like a test question.
Yeah.
I think it's assumed that the students are supposed to know what it is before the test happens. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah, I agree with that.
Okay.
We should just do like vague little, like we could even use part of our example that we used in it. Like,
so we could ask like,
wrong answer, you know?
which of the following is an example of procedural law?
Yes.
And then maybe a wrong answer could be like, you know, someone being pulled over for exceeding the speed limit. And then the right answer could be, I guess, being served a subpoena or
so the
probable cause.
Because of that example that he gave, where the bill was the employee's company and the girl was the lawyer for the company and not Bill's lawyer, right? That example. The reason I'm asking is because all the questions were based off of that, but you didn't necessarily know. I mean, you didn't necessarily know all the answers, like right when that was given, or was there had to be additional information served so that we could understand what was going on, like why exactly it was that Bill didn't have attorney-client privilege with the lawyer.
Hey guys, this is like a side note, but somebody else is emailing me. I think he thinks he's in our group.
Pest control dude, Michael, is that it?
No, he is in our group. Prince.
Yeah, he just emailed me wondering how he could get the link to this.
Okay, well, I could send him one. I mean, if he's gonna be in our group, that's fine. Hold on.
Yeah, I just yeah.
I thought he was in group 5. Like I looked it up and I saw, but what's his email?
PNW AEZE 0@gmail.
Okay, I'll just send it. Okay, so
So I think we need to change a little bit. I don't know, like I wanted Courtney, if you could read the example, like what did you wrote, so we can have like so we can know.
So our example is the speed limit on Main Street is 35 miles per hour, which would be a substantive law. The procedural law is how police officers pull over those who exceed the speed limit.
Okay. So should we write it like the sample, like Bill is the CEO, so we can write a name like, I don't know, whoever is this person and he's driving and
I think that's a good
suddenly
idea.
he speeds the limit, then like write it like a story.
Okay.
So then we follow the.
Yeah, that works.
Good old word problem. All right, here's my question. So using the speed limit, again, I'm sorry I know this potentially useless knowledge, but it just keeps popping up in my head. Different states have different laws regarding speed limits. In the state of Texas, they have a law. We have a law here that basically says you can go as fast as you want as long as you're not driving recklessly, as long as you're not endangering yourself or others. So it kind of goes both ways. If it's raining or sleeting or something, and the speed limit's 60, but it's unsafe to go 20 miles per hour and you're going 20, you will be pulled over and given a ticket. On the other hand, if the speed limit is 60 or 65 and it's safe to be going 75 or 80, you will not be pulled over and given a ticket. And different states have laws like that. So I don't know. I think if it were me answering a question, I'd like to have specifics on a law like that, and I think it's necessary because otherwise, it might be my ADHD kicking in, guys. I'm just thinking that that's something that maybe should be there, but only if you guys agree. I don't want to step on toes.
Yeah, it might just be kind of different examples of. I mean, those are like different examples of maybe procedural. I don't know how the substantive law is enforced. Like you said, it's different conditions, and so it's enforced differently depending on the scenario. But was it Monica that gave us that last example, like that kind of, the speed limit is this, and this person was going that fast, and.
Okay. Do you want me to like say it, or I didn't get it?
Oh no, I just said I liked the example that you had given.
Okay. Oh, okay. So Courtney is doing it. Should we we have to help her?
So I put, hold on.
Okay.
Okay, so the speed limit on Main Street is 35 miles per hour. Steve was in a hurry and decided to drive down Main Street at 50 miles per hour. He was then pulled over by a police officer and received a ticket for exceeding the speed limit. And then I'll just add at the end, like, the substantive law is this part and the procedural law is the ticket aspect of it.
That we can add in the explanation.
So what would be the question? We're doing a question, right? Not just an example?
Yeah, so Bill has to do, Stephen has to do something, says, he doesn't agree on having a ticket because he was in a hurry or something. And then we explain our case, and then we start asking questions.
Yeah, I mean, in California, you can contest a ticket by writing a letter. You essentially, you can literally say, I didn't do it, written down on a sheet of paper in purple crayon, mail it in, and you get the letter, or you get the ticket tossed out according to the laws in that state. So
I think we can stick with that example that was given.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. Stick with it.
And then as the question, we can say, identify
what?
This scenario constitutes substantive law, or which part of the scenario constitutes procedural.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
All right, there you go.
Okay. Disobey
that word.
Procedural law, or was it, having the speed limit be 35, or was it the fact that the cops pulled them over? Okay. And then those could be like our simple answers.
Okay.
Very good. Very good. Should there be an additional question, like what recourse does the driver have?
No.
I don't know. I think the question just needs to do with substantive and procedural.
Yeah. After the example, we need to explain the example. So that's the part where we explain what part is the.
So like the sample is, we had to explain why Bill didn't have attorney-client privilege, right? We had procedural law, we had substantive law, and then we had this third thing. Why can't the attorney keep Bill's information just with herself? And that was she's the appropriate lawyer, not his lawyer. So, so if that's the template we're supposed to be following, shouldn't there be a question like that, a third question after what's the substantive, what's the procedural, and then also
no, because I think that whole example was based off a whole different concept that it was trying to explain. Like ours is strictly substantive and procedural law, so we should just stick to that. And
that's all that is on the rubric. That's what we're.
Yes.
Yeah, the difference between those.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So for the quiz question, I'm restating the example I already put in the example section, and then I'm just going to say under it which, from the example given above, which part of this is would be procedural law. Okay?
Okay.
Okay.
So there's one question, two.
One question.
Yeah, one quiz question, and then a lot of wrong answers.
Yes.
Okay.
And normally one of us is submitting that, right?
Yeah, which I will do that.
So, can we, just for the sake of being able to go above and beyond, add a second question with wrong answers as well? What is the procedural? You have the first one, what's the substantive? Okay, then what's the procedural?
But we have the chance to do that in all the wrong answers because then we need to write the feedback of the wrong answer and write it the right.
Right, like you'd kind of be like having that question would almost be
No, you're right. It would
unnecessary
cancel the
because
other
if
one
they
out.
were next to each other in a quiz and you knew the answer to one of them, then you know
Right.
the answer to the other. So it kind of
Yeah,
Right.
stick to the one question.
No, you're right. I would just prefer our assignment stuck out from everybody else's. You know what I mean? Does anyone else feel that way? Okay, if you don't.
No, it's okay. But I think if we follow like this thing, we will be able to.
Well, that's what I'm saying. There's following the thing, and then there's doing more than what's required, and he's actually looking for that, and so is every other teacher at school.
I think doing more than what's required could just be a personal thing as to like how much studying and preparing you actually do before.
Okay. That's fine. I'm just like I said, I'm just asking if you guys agree with that or not, and it's okay if you don't. That's fine. So we have the example, we have the question. Courtney, you have it written down, right?
Yep, proceed.
You are a very fast typer, apparently, because
Okay.
you wrote all that down real quick, and I'm very impressed.
So our correct answer is going to be the procedural law is would be when he's pulled over and receives a ticket. That's fine.
Yeah.
So then we need to give the feedback of that thing.
And then the wrong answers are the speed limit was 35 miles per hour, and I mean that should be one of the wrong answers. What are the other wrong answers?
Would it actually be easier if we instead made the question like we said earlier, like which like something more about like which of the following is correct, because then we could say like the substantive would be him being pulled over, and then like we can mix it up a little more.
That could work.
Yeah, that works.
Okay.
Yeah. I think we might be overthinking it a little bit, but that's probably okay.
What do you mean? What do you mean, Bradley?
I don't know. Like,
Come on, girls, speak up. Let us know what you think. What's on your mind?
well, I don't know. I feel like it's kind of like a circle.
How do you mean?
She just thinks we're talking, which we are. She's right. We're just kind of talking in circles. We keep going around, but that's okay. It's
Yeah.
No, you're
if
talking
someone
about
doesn't
the discussion,
understand,
not
we
the
come back
question
to
on
it.
the paper.
What?
You're talking about the discussion, not the questions that we're actually putting down?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Which is fine because then it like solidifies our understanding, but I just thought it was kind of funny.
Yeah. I thought you were talking about the assignment.
Oh.
That we were making it more complicated.
Okay. And then a wrong answer is going to be the law is the speed limit.
Okay. Sí.
So for the other two questions, or the other two answers that are wrong, what do you guys think? Hey, Brent.
Hi.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good.
Prince, just to get you in the loop, Prince, we got our we have our example down, and we're starting to get the question and the answers down as well. the example we're using is that a guy is driving his car in a speed limit marked 35 miles an hour, but he's driving at 50 miles an hour, gets pulled over and gets a ticket. So, just so you know, Prince.
So what are examples, Brady?
Yeah, that's the example we're gonna.
I might use my own examples also.
What's that?
I might give my own examples also.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Let me come up with one.
Go for it.
Okay, let me bring it out. You know.
So is that all that we need to do as a group? Is basically give an example and then write a quiz question for it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay.
Courtney, have you write the correct answer feedback?
The correct answer feedback. No, I have not.
Because we can use the definition given in the book that says procedural law pertains to operating rules for obtaining substantive rights and defining substantive obligations in a court of law. So that is why our example is, that is why we're answering this and this and that.
Okay. Okay, so I'll type that. So right now I have the correct answer being the procedural law is when Steve is pulled over and given a ticket. A wrong answer is the procedural law is the 35 miles per hour speed limit. Another wrong answer is the substantive law is when Steve is pulled over and given a ticket. So we just need one more wrong answer and then the feedback.
Okay.
That's what I was wondering, because substantive law gives that police officer the right to be there and pull Steve over.
Well, once we get into that aspect of it, once we get into that part of the law, then it turns into procedural law because.
Well, what I'm saying is it's both. There's a substantive law that gives the police officer the right to be there in the first place, but the police officer is also carrying out procedural law by pulling him over and giving him a ticket. Or procedural law only in a court.
Oh, you could probably like break anything apart and explain it like that, but I think it still works as a wrong answer.
Let me see.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey guys, I hate to do this to you, but I gotta go. I have class in a couple of minutes.
Okay, good luck.
All right. Next week, Jake.
All right. See ya. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah, I'm yet to come up with my own example. I hope that there'll be enough time to share such examples.
Could you share your example so we can hear?
I'm trying to get them from my Microsoft Word, but it's faulty. I'll try and get them right now.
Where are you from, Prince? Where are you living at?
Yeah, I'm living in Nigeria, and this is my niece. She's here with me.
Hi, niece.
Hi.
So I'm from Nigeria, and I live in Aba, the eastern part of Nigeria, though.
You live where?
In Abia State, but the city is called Aba.
I'm sorry, I don't understand what you said.
Yeah, I see that I live in Abia State, in the southeast of Nigeria. So that's where I live, and here is our stake center.
Oh, cool.
Actually, the stake center is located in the temple, in the Aba Nigeria temple. So that's where we are now.
Oh, wow.
So where do you stay, Jacob?
I'm in San Antonio, Texas.
Texas. So how were people able to battle the hurricane that hit? How were people able to battle the hurricane that hit Texas last week?
We weren't affected all that much. I guess we missed it by about being a half hour too far away from it. Part of my city got hit, but the part I'm in was okay.
So I need some time to know everyone. Bradley, where are you from?
I'm from Oregon, but I'm living in Idaho right now.
Ducks or beavers?
What?
Ducks or beavers?
Beavers.
Hey, I have a friend playing for him.
I do too.
Yeah, what's his name?
PJ Schubert.
Nice. Yeah, I got one of the defensive players, Paisa Savea.
Oh, that's cool.
He was a missionary when I lived in California. He was served in that mission, and now he's playing for the Beavers.
Well, my in-laws are diehard Beavers, so I think I'd be kicked out if I was a Duck fan.
Okay, what about you, Courtney? Where are you from?
I live in Southern California, not too far from Los Angeles.
What part?
Azusa.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I lived up in San Luis Obispo area.
That's not a bad place.
No, it's a beautiful place. Beautiful.
Okay, so now all I have, so I have the correct answer and its feedback, which was the definition that Monica gave me, and then I did the same thing for the next question, or the wrong answer. So the wrong answer is the procedural law is 35 miles per hour speed limit, and then I gave the definition of substantive law because that explains that the 35 mile per hour speed limit would be substantive. And then the next wrong answer is the substantive law is when Steve is pulled over and given a ticket. So I just need to write the feedback for that. And then we just need to come up with one more wrong answer. So,
like I said, that I feel that's ambiguous, but it could go either way. But I think we're safe because the clear right answer is the 35 mile per hour. That's a clear right answer.
Right.
So we just need one more wrong answer then? That's what you said?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. We can do that.
Sorry, I can't give my own example because I made an example for group 5, which is based on diversity of citizenship jurisdiction. So forgive me for that. I will have another example for next week.
Okay. So are you in our group now for sure?
What?
Because this is group 2. So are you in our group now?
Yes, I'm in your group now.
Okay,
Definitely.
I'll make sure I email you next time.
Okay. So who will be submitting our group assignments?
I'm submitting it this week.
Yeah, I think we should change it this week.
Yeah.
I'm okay with submitting it next week.
Okay.
Okay.
Just give me.
Hmm?
We'll figure that out next week.
I'm sorry, what?
He said we'll figure it out next week.
We'll figure it out next week? Okay.
Yeah.
So
I think that will work.
how are we doing with our assignment this week?
We're doing fine. We're almost done with it. Courtney's got it mostly done right now. We just need a third wrong answer.
We can write something like he is not. This is not an example of any of those laws. Like.
Oh yeah, this is not an example of either of those types of laws.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. A good cop out.
What?
Okay, so just put this. This is not.
Should we put something that's a city ordinance or something like that? Something that would be considered a city ordinance into the example and then make that the last answer? The
What
last
is that?
wrong answer?
What is the city ordinance?
Huh?
What is
What
that?
is it?
Yeah.
I said,
No, she
what
wants
if
you
we
to
put a
explain
city
it.
ordinance? It's not exactly a law. It's not really a law, but it's an ordinance. And so that would be the wrong answer. For instance, the third brake light on his car wasn't working. Like he was driving a truck or something, and the third brake light on the truck wasn't working.
Um,
I think it's wrong.
That would be an ordinance, I think, not a law, and therefore it wouldn't apply.
Wrong.
And we could say city ordinance states that the city ordinance states that he has, like, something like that. Like, you have to have a rear view mirror, but he doesn't. Or you have to have a passenger view mirror, but he doesn't.
okay,
Or a municipal code, or something like that. We state it in the example and then use that as the third wrong answer, because it's not really a law.
okay, I actually like that. So I just need to find a way to include that. So I would say, Steve was in a hurry and decided to drive down Main Street at 50 miles per hour with, what would I say? Like in his truck with his.
With
like a
a
missing
truck
rearview
that
mirror
has
thing.
3 brake lights, or with a truck that did not have a passenger side mirror.
Okay. In his truck.
And city ordinance mandates. Because that's not something that doesn't get carried out in court. That has nothing to do with the court system. It's a safety ordinance type thing, like kind of like having a.
Just a question: is that written in, like, just to know, not just for my own understanding? Is that written in the book so I can get familiar with it, or is it something that you know because you live there? Because I'm not familiar with the law.
He's in Texas. He's in Texas, and the city ordinance states he has to have a passenger mirror, but state law does not.
Okay, just the city ordinance, is that a definition here? So I just want to understand it myself. Is written in the book? I'm just trying to look at.
No, it's not written in the book. I'm just.
Oh, okay, yeah, it's common knowledge.
Yeah, and it will be that once we put it in. So I would write.
Okay.
He's in Texas. Texas state law states he does not have to have a passenger side mirror, but the city ordinance says he does.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Courtney,
the city ordinance is a fake thing that I'm making up, but I mean, city ordinances are real, but that specific city ordinance is fake.
Okay.
But it's still, for the purposes of the question, I think it's valid.
Okay.
What did you say, Brayley?
Could you share your screen so I can
Yes.
read over it? I'm not very good with I have a short attention span. I don't always listen very well.
Yeah, the ADHD? I do.
I haven't been tested. I'm afraid I'd get positive results.
Actually, that might be a good thing, because I didn't get diagnosed until last year. I'm 31. And so I went all of my schooling without having been diagnosed. And had I been properly treated, I wouldn't be 31 and finishing my bachelor's degree still.
I need you to repeat what you said one more time. Texas.
Texas state law only requires that a vehicle have a driver's side mirror. The city he's in, the city he's driving in is Brenham, Texas. And the city ordinance states that he needs a passenger side mirror. A municipal code, city municipal code states this.
Okay. So I'll read to you what I said. I didn't write exactly what you said because I think we can kind of shorten it down.
Yeah.
Because we're just using it as like a kind of sidetrack for a wrong answer. So the speed limit on Main Street in Texas is 35 miles per hour. Steve was in a hurry and decided to drive down Main Street at 50 miles per hour in his truck that did not have a passenger side mirror. Texas state law only requires that a vehicle have a driver's side mirror. The city ordinance states that he needs a passenger side mirror. He was then pulled over by a police officer and received a ticket for exceeding the speed limit.
Okay. I would take he was driving in Texas, which state law, and then put the law there. He was driving in Texas, where put the city and the state there. He was driving through Brenham, Texas, where state law says he only needs a driver's side mirror, but municipal code in Brenham says he needs a passenger mirror.
How do you spell Brenham?
You can come again.
How do you spell what?
Brenham.
Brenham. So Bravo, Romeo, Echo, Nancy, Hotel, Alpha, Mary.
Okay.
Which, coincidentally, that's where Bluebell ice cream is made.
Okay, so our last wrong answer could be that the procedural, or really it doesn't matter, but the procedural law is
the needing a driver's or passenger side mirror.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Which it doesn't, because what's the definition for procedural law? Like the exact definition for procedural?
It is the enforcement of substantive law, so it's nowhere near what that is.
And procedural law comprises the rules by which a court hears and determines what happens in civil, lawsuit, criminal, or administrative proceedings. So the procedural law is the rules by which a court acts. And then substantive law defines how the facts in the case will be handled, as well as how the crime is to be charged. So procedural law is like whether it'll go to trial or not, and substantive law determines how the facts will be handled and how the crime is charged.
Right. Okay, so I'll just read through it all one more time. I think I just finished. Okay. So the question is our example, which I... Okay. From the example above, which of the following is a correct example of either substantive or procedural law? The correct answer is the procedural law is when Steve is pulled over and given a ticket. The next wrong answers are the procedural law is the 35 mile per hour speed limit. The substantive law is when Steve is pulled over and given a ticket. And the procedural law is that he needs a passenger side mirror. So I think we're pretty much set.
Yeah, so the last one would be a wrong answer. What was the last wrong answer? It had to do with the ticket again. I'm sorry. Can you read them again? The answers. Read the question and the answers for me, please. I'm sorry.
Which of the following is a correct example of either substantive or procedural law? The correct answer is the procedural law is when Steve is pulled over and given a ticket. The wrong answers are the procedural law is the 35 miles per hour speed limit. The substantive law is when Steve is pulled over and given a ticket. And the procedural law is that he needs a passenger side mirror.
Okay. Which, okay, that's yeah, that's all well and good. Should the question just be one or the other? Which of these is procedural law? Or instead of procedural and the procedural or substantive, instead of that, just one or the other?
No, I would just keep it the same.
Okay, because to me, that would be a confusing question if I was, that'd be a super confusing question if I was taking that in a quiz or a test.
Well, it's basically just a which of the following is correct.
No, I know, but if the question is which of the following is procedural or substantive law, then I'm saying that's where the confusion would take place. For someone like me, I'm just speaking from my point of view as I can. It's the only way I can. But I just think it should be one or the other.
Right, but I think we decided to do this because it's easier to come up with more wrong.
Well, the answers would be the same. The answers don't change, but the answers don't change at all. It would just be the question that deletes the or.
So what do you want me to put?
Well, so you have which of these are procedural or substantive law, right? That's the question.
Which of the following is a correct example of either substantive or procedural law?
Okay. And the answers are, which of the answers are actual procedural law?
That Steve is pulled over and given a ticket.
Okay. And you have 35 miles an hour on there, right?
No, he...
Okay. So
the procedural law is when Steve is pulled over and given a ticket.
Okay. Good. And then the rest of the answers are what?
There's one where he's going 35 miles per hour as the procedural law. And I have where the substantive law is that he gets pulled over and given a ticket. And then the last one is that he needs a passenger side mirror.
Okay. So I would change the question to substantive law, because substantive law is the actual giving of the ticket. Actually getting the ticket is substantive law.
No, that's procedural.
No, that's procedural.
You have them backwards.
Substantive law defines how the facts of the case will be handled and how the crime is to be charged. And so the officer determines whether it's a moving violation or whether he's actually breaking the law and committing a felony, like if he was going over 100 miles an hour. That is substantive law. How the crime is to be charged is substantive law.
No. Procedural law is the enforcement of substantive law. So
procedural.
Yes.
Here's what I found. Procedural law provides the process that a case will go through. The procedural law determines how a proceeding concerning the enforcement of substantive law will occur. Substantive law defines how the facts in the case will be handled, as well as how the crime is to be charged. And how the crime is to be charged is determined at the moment the police officer gives a ticket, a warning, or would commit an arrest. Those are the three options a policeman has in a traffic stop. So that giving a ticket is substantive law because it defines how the crime is to be charged. It's just a ticket, or it's actually or it's public endangerment and you're going to jail right then. Does that make sense?
I kind of view procedure law as more of the actual action, though, that like the law takes.
I'm sitting there. I have the definitions in front of me, and substantive law determines how the crime is to be charged.
Yeah, if you read the book,
Are you looking at the book?
I'm not looking at the book, but yes, I read the book. Substantive law defines how the crime is to be charged, it's not what the law is. That's procedural.
No. That's the substantive law defines the legal right. It's a definition.
Okay, I am holding the book right here. Substantive law defines legal rights and obligations.
In regard to
procedural law is concerned with the enforcement of substantive law. So broken down, substantive law is like the laws that we all follow, and procedural law is how those laws are enforced.
Yeah, I agree.
Going even further, yes, procedural law would be how attorneys handle themselves in court and how they have to go about like filing paperwork, like Monica said, but no, procedural law is it's the enforcement.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only thing I agree is that the question needs to be just for one thing, like only substantial or procedural law. Oh, just give me a minute. It's too noisy here.
But then we're only covering half of the material that he
liked. It's okay. Like we can leave it like it is. Like I think it's good.
I think it's good how it is.
Yeah, I agree. I think we can probably call it good.
Yeah, I think it's good. Okay.
So,
do you need more help?
I just looked it up on a lawyer's website, and it says the procedural law involves a system of rules for applying substantive law. Is that right? Is that what the book says?
So that would be correct. So it would be the rules that the cop is following his law that he's allowed to pull somebody over for exceeding the speed limit.
Okay. So it's the procedural is the cop giving the ticket is procedural law, right?
Correct.
Yeah, because that's the action taken.
Okay. I'm sorry, because I had like 6 different websites saying the opposite thing, but the attorney's website agrees with the book, so I'm okay with that. So I'm just saying all right, so in that case, I would just change the question to which of these is procedural law instead of which is either or. Just to make it simple.
The problem with that is then I have to change one of the wrong answers.
Okay. Well, procedural law would be the giving of the ticket, right? That would be the right answer?
Yes.
Okay. But you have... no.
I think it's right how we have it.
Yeah, I don't think like it would be a college exam. Like the questions are supposed to be kind of difficult.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and one more time for my sake, and just so I can write it down, what are the answers we have again?
Do you want me to just email it to you so you can have a copy?
Yes.
I will send everybody an email of what I am submitting, and then everybody can approve, and then I will submit it.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks, Courtney.
The only thing that we need to do, like I wrote, we need to start reading the Leonard versus PepsiCo case because we have to do something in week 4.
What is it?
We need to read the Leonard versus PepsiCo case.
Oh, okay.
We have an assignment for week 4, and it's a little bit different.
Oh yeah, I read that. I think we can read over that individually though.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
if that's the case, that was introduced at the beginning of the semester, right? That's the same case. Okay. All right. So,
Okay. Well, I'll
Courtney,
stop the recording
appreciate
then,
that.
and I will link the recording and everything.
All right, and you'll send us all a copy of that.
I will do it right now.
Before we go, next week, Thursday, 10:30, Mountain
Yeah, we need to
Standard
submit
Time.
the time. Yeah. So who is submitting the time we're meeting? Because that's another submission that we need to make.
We went over that last night, and
No. Who is submitting the time? Like
I think we can all do. Can't we all do that?
oh, we have to submit the time. Yeah.
It says, let me read. Please have one member of your group submit the assignments folder to tell me which day and time your group plans to meet every week.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay. You'll do that, Braylee?
Yeah,
Right,
I got
so
that.
Okay.
Thursdays at 10:30, right?
Okay. So who is recording the meeting next time?
I can record it every time. As long as I'm going to be there, I'll do it.
Okay.
Great.
That makes it easy.
Thanks, Courtney.
No problem.
I appreciate it.
Okay,
All right.